want to talk about here is how do we start to build the pyramid? How do we build that Minto pyramid? How do we help build the thinking process that you need to go through? And when we sort of look at the idea of this idea pyramid or the Minto pyramid, we have at the top really a summary. So the elevator pitch, followed down below, a little bit below that, is the key messages, and then the back pocket. So those ideas, the evidence, the details that you need. So it's really about what's the question that the client wants answered, what are the key points to support that, and then how do you explain those key points, and building this in this structure that creates some synthesis, some communication, some coherence as you go through it. So the idea here is looking at this whole idea of the situation, the complication, the question. What are the answers to those? This is the governing thought you look at. And then you look at sort of those key ideas, those key lines, and then how do you support those key lines as you go through this and build that pyramid around this type of structure. So you can do this in terms of a response to how. And in here, Acme must develop a value proposition tailored to the rancher market. And in the key line, we have to understand the unique needs of those ranchers. We need to adapt the product line to meet the ranchers' needs. And then we have to educate the ranchers on Acme's ability to meet those needs. And below each of those, we have to talk about the evidence, the analysis that we get to get that. So these become the answer to that question in terms of how do we develop that value proposition. We can do the same thing in terms of why. Acme should spend $40 million to accelerate the approval of process for birdseed. We've got a number of key lines here. We've got a $2 billion per year market. We've got early approvals allowing us to make more profit for Acme than if we don't get that early approval. But we also have competitors developing that. And again, behind these reasons are the analysis of how we got there. And so we start to talk about those pieces of it. And again, building this whole idea of here's the support for the key items that we want to talk about that answer the question that has been proposed to us in terms of what we're looking for a solution for. When we do this, we also want to keep it in this mode of MECE, mutually exclusive, collectively exhaustive. So organizing those ideas, those topics, those issues in buckets. And so the idea that any idea can be placed into one and only one bucket, and all the buckets we have can contain the entire universe of possible items or possible solutions. And then an example of that is mutually exclusive. So if we're making dinner, we're looking at, do any of the points overlap? And so if we look at sort of the process we go through, we select a menu, we buy the ingredients, we prepare the courses. Those are the buckets we're looking at. And then how do we throw the pieces into that? And another idea here with collectively exhaustive, have all the possibilities been covered? So we're looking at reasons to acquire competitors. So those may be things like complementary customer base, superior technologies, digestible sizes. Again, the buckets we're looking at, so we can throw the ideas into those single buckets and really try to cover the whole possibility of ideas that can possibly exist in terms of our solution. And again, this can play back into things like the 5D framework that I talked about from a former student of mine, Maddie Quinlan at Salient, in terms of this is the define. How do we define the context of the project, the relevant variables, the baseline? And then it's about taking that, deliberating it, designing it. And those are the pieces that generally happen at competitions with students. But in the real world, you then get to deploy that and then debrief, look back and see what happens with it.